Good afternoon, everyone. Steve Brown from Swansea Business Marketing, and this afternoon I'm joined by Neil Stewart from Private Property Buyer. So first of all, good afternoon, Neil.
Good afternoon, Stephen. Thank you for inviting me along. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So Neil, what I want to talk about today is I know previously you and I have talked about the different coaching programs you do, coaching, intensive coaching, etc. So I just want to focus, if I can for a moment, focus on your coaching course, your basic one, and I want to ask you what's actually involved in it. Because I know you were talking about it being over a period of about 3 months, which would, involving property, would make sense to me. So can you tell me from day one what actually happens? What happens when we meet up on day one?
Okay, so day one would be very much of a fact-finding kind of day. So,
yeah.
I may never have met you really before properly, other than maybe for coffee. So we sit down. It's quite a full day of 2-3 hours where we just go through the kind of person you are, what sort of thing you're looking for, what you want to achieve. I need to understand a little bit about you, whether or not you're kind of averse to risks, whether you find it very difficult to take that next step, whether you're kind of the person that would just go out and do everything that needs to be done. So I can understand the best way to work with you, and so we can work together. Excuse me.
So when you're saying a bit, find out a bit about me, are you talking about things like, because obviously I would imagine that in the investment world there's people that would go out there and say buy a house for 50,000, and there's people that can afford to go out and buy a house for 250,000. So are you talking about finding out exactly what markets these people are in, etc.?
That's part of it, yeah. It's a little bit about finding out what you can buy, what you can't buy. I have people that I coach that have no money at all. But there's still ways of purchasing property without any money. So, and then you have people that have a little bit of money in the bank, perhaps that they've sat there and it's earning them maybe 2% if they're lucky. So they're thinking, I'll put it into property, I can turn it into 10, 12, maybe even 20% return on my money. So understanding what your circumstances are is very important, because you're not going to be happy me sending you off to buy something and you can't do that with it, or there's no way. So if there's no money in your bank, for example, we might spend some time working out ideas and go through ways of how we can actually buy property without having that money, and then that might be one of the tasks that you need to go forward and to move forward with. There may be some aspects to that, so you've got to go do A, B, C to work out how we're going to do that. Right.
So assuming then you've just had this fact-finding mission with me, and you understand a lot more about me now. So what sort of hand-holding goes on? How often do we meet, and what's the sort of topics that we'll be talking about at each meeting?
Okay, so at the end of the initial one-to-one, you will go away with, or we'll agree on maybe 3 or 4, possibly 5 tasks or goals that you want to achieve at the end of that period. I will then set you tasks to do before we next speak, which would normally be in a couple of weeks' time. So you would have 2 weeks to go away, and maybe I'll give you 5 tasks. There might be 5 things I want you to do which takes you to the next step, that takes you a step forward to your goals. So I might say to you, Steve, okay, go out and find out 5 areas that you think that you can invest in. And then we will go through a process of how we eliminate those areas, or how we qualify those areas to be those are the areas that you will be able to purchase property and rent out and generate good income or good returns on your money.
So are we saying then that I can actually choose, so through your coaching, I can actually choose the sort of areas that, because at the end of the day, people have favourite areas for property and etc., but it wouldn't necessarily be the right areas because you can't get return on your investment or something. But in general, are you saying you can help guide us through and guide people through the formulas, etc., and then help me choose properties in the type of areas that I would like to buy in?
Absolutely. It will be a case of the whole concept is that you're doing your work, and all I'm doing is just helping you decide whether or not that's the right place. So there may be, you might suddenly say to me, I want to go and buy in London. Now I personally already know that there is certainly, it's a difficult market to buy in London, but we won't discard it. I'll let you go and work it out for yourself. So I'll give you the formulas and the ways to try and research that area, London. Then we'll come back, we'll go through it and say, okay, so what have you found? How have you, can we do it? Can we go and buy a flat in London, or do we need a serious bank account for that kind of thing? Or what's the strategy we would use in London, as opposed to maybe coming to Swansea? well, we could do that. We could do it in Swansea. We might be able to say, well, if I bought in this area in Swansea, I could do well. But if I went to this area of Swansea, if I went to Mumbles, for example, it's a different aspect to come in, to perhaps one of the other areas like Mayhill or something like that.
I get you. So realistically, then, obviously you'll help me work these sums out and guiding me through it so that I can see for myself which areas of Swansea, that's the city I'm targeting. You'll help me understand what areas will work and what won't work. So what happens if later on, I'm struggling with some of these tasks that you give me? You're saying you're talking about giving me 4 or 5 tasks. What happens when I'm actually struggling on something for some reason?
Okay, so if at any point you get to a point where you think, oh, I can't do this, or there's maybe some barrier, some sort of block that's stopping you from going forward, you'll have my number, you'll have my text, you'll have emails and phone numbers. So all you need to do is drop me a quick text and say, Neil, look, this task I'm really struggling with. Can you help me? And as soon as I can, I'll phone you straight back, and we'll have a good chat about it, and we'll get through that process. The whole point of coaching is you're not on your own. You do need to learn to be able to do it for yourself, and it's not me doing it for you. You've got to do the process yourself, but I'll always be there for you.
Right. So I'm going to be really cheeky now and say, but what if I've come on your coaching program, I'm really getting into it, but I'm still very nervous. Is there any opportunities for doing like joint purchases or anything?
Of course there is. Yeah, I mean, there's always opportunity. If there's a deal comes up and you just think, what am I going to do with this? I've done it with other people in the past where we could say, all right, let's do it together. We can share the profit. We can work it out together. We can do the first one together. It really depends on the circumstances. It might be that I'm not in a position to do it. I may have other projects going on at that time, but we might be able to hook you up with somebody else, or you may be able to find someone yourself that you could do it with, and I can just help you work that partnership out.
Right. So basically, then, from day one, you're coaching them through. You're showing them all how to go and find properties, how to work with estate agents, how to actually find the right properties and what it's going to cost to turn them into profitable items. So, and what sort of time period? I heard you mention about 3 months. Is there a fixed time?
Well, we initially do the coaching period for 3 months, so that's a nice period of time. It gets you to where your confidence is built up over that period of time. You learn a lot of the things you need to do. At the end of that 3 months, if you want to continue on, we can continue on, and we can do it on a monthly basis or as and when basis. You might find that you've got enough out of that 3 months. Think, right, I know what I'm doing now. I can carry on and go for myself. And then after a couple of months, you might come back and say, just want to get together for a couple of hours just to run a few things by you to get your advice on what to do here. Or you might be at the end of that 3 months, actually, I think I need to keep this going. So it's entirely driven by you. It's when you're ready to stop, you stop. If you want to carry on, you carry on.
Okay. So Neil, I want to thank you again, because this sounds like a very good program for anybody who wants to get involved in property investment, because I would imagine it's one of the most nervous. Do you find that people, when they first start to do something like this, they're actually a bag of nerves? Because at the end of the day, I know you're saying you can do it, there are ways of doing it for free, but either way, it's a huge commitment, whether it be your own cash or somebody else's. Do you find people are very nervous when they start off?
Very much so, and I did have one person, I won't say any names or gender, who was very, very nervous, and actually we did something with that person that they bought a property, but over the course of a month, I think I must have spoke to them every day on the phone.
Right.
We would go through what we're going to do, and they'd be happy with it. They'd go off, and then something or somebody in their life would say, what are you doing? What do you think? You can't do that. So the next day, they'd be on the phone to me and say, I'm not quite sure what's going on. And we would go through it all again, and they'd understand it again, and eventually, and that person, literally every day for a month, I spoke to them, and we did buy the property at the end of that month. So they were very happy they got the property, and it generates them income.
Right, so they're obviously very delighted by the fact that they made the commitment and went ahead, and now they're on the property ladder, basically.
Absolutely. I can't do that for everybody, but that particular person, most people are happy with the 2 week cycle, or during that 2 weeks they have maybe 1 or 2 more calls with me, or quick catch-ups or quick texts. But that's one extreme. That was a very, very, very nervous person. They were very, very worried about. They had a very small amount of money, and they didn't want to waste that money. So now they're very happy with it.
Okay. Well, Neil, I want to thank you yet again for joining us this afternoon. So if somebody actually wants to get hold of you, gets in touch with you, what do they do?
Just go onto the privatepropertybuyer.net website. There's a phone number on there, email on there, either of those. Get in touch and leave your details, and I'll come back to you.
Okay. So yet again, Neil, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks very much.
No problem.